Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome to Module 6, Session 2, Visual Branding. Let's dive in. So in our previous session, we have taken 2 case studies, right? And we have tried to understand how branding plays an important role and how just a logo is not the major part, right? This is a very small part where you try to keep the brand impression using visual forms, but overall branding is the holistic representation, right? It can be service, it can be product, right? And together, all together, how it's creating an impression, right? It's also the community who are involved in that and the employees, right, which falls under that. So we have looked into the details how Incredible India branding has played a major role in cultural upliftment, the idea of India as a projection to the outside world, and what are the key factors they have taken into consideration to overall branding image about modern India, right? Secondly, we have taken into consideration in the other segment, which is an again industry of clothings, like apparels, and how you can see it was totally projecting the idea of the brand in concern to the environment, the earth, the sustainability, and how they were quite active in raising the issues of the environment. And this is where again the branding is represented in a different segment, where it's more towards concern to the society, right? The community, the environment was taken into consideration. Today we will look into the major factor of how visual branding as a segment can impact the overall representation of a brand in terms of visuals. Okay, so we'll focus into that and let's dive into it in more detail. So when I say the word, what is visual branding, right? Definitely by now you have some idea about how visual branding is also important compared to overall the concept of branding. So the visual branding is used is a use of visual elements to create a distinct and cohesive identity for a brand. Okay, and as you can see here, there are 3 stripes, right? And somewhere or the other, if you are exposed to any kind of brand with 3 stripes, you may correlate, and this is where the interesting phase come into play. So it's very crucial component of the overall branding, and it's involved designing and curating the look and feel that communicates the brand values, personality, and purpose to its audience. So what I mean by that is, like, let's take this example of 3 stripes, right? And somewhere or the other, if you have exposed to such kind of brand which has 3 stripes, by now you can correlate it has some essence of that, but it's not distinctly visible in that way, right? Now let's take this picture, and you can see there are athletes which are running together, right? They are in a race for the running, and if we put some kind of elements, or the 3 stripes if we put here, right? And now the essence of the representation is changing, because somewhere there now again it's triggering you towards a particular brand which has 3 stripes, and it is correlating with the essence, the feel, right? The visual feel of that particular brand. Again, this is another picture, and how 2 of the runners are doing morning, right? They are running in the streets, and again in the same segment, if I put 3 stripes, again the look and feel of the particular picture, it changes. It gives a connection to existing brand which has 3 stripes. And this is where I want to emphasize how visual elements plays an important role to create a brand essence. See, even though I haven't mentioned about the brand, somewhere or the other, people who are associated with this brand with three stripes can correlate with the overall idea, right? And it feels like it's connected to that storytelling and the narrative it want to project. Now similarly, same, this is an image of a boxer in a boxing ring, and again, since if I put the three stripes here again, it correlates to the essence, the philosophy associated to the particular brand. Now with this, again coming back to the primary image, like now if I add the brand name here, now it totally completes the story, the narrative, what it's trying to say, right? It's about athlete, it's about winning, right? It's about pursuing the goal. So as the brand is not has never done this kind of photography, but since I myself, if I add those elements, somewhere or the other, it creates the essence of that particular brand when I see the elements and the brand name associated to that. And this is where the idea of visual branding is very, very important. Although this was never been designed by Adidas, right? But since I composed the elements associated to that, it has some connection because I have chosen such kind of pictures which also correlated to their product. And this is where the essence of brand visual identity plays an important role. So even though if somebody doesn't know about the particular brand, but when I design the brand in such a way that I take the elements, the logo associated to that, and narrate a story, right? It feels like that the brand is trying to convey meaning in terms of achieving to being like the mindset of winning something, right? So in that way you can connect. Similarly, again, if I use the brand name here, again, the essence of the overall representation changes, right? How it started with just two people running, and how the visual elements like the three stripes and the brand name Adidas is again projected, and it gives a different feel of the overall representation. Similarly here, right, how you can see this being like in terms of how the story has been projected. So most of the composition, when you compose using visual branding, it's always associated to the storytelling. How do you tell a story using the elements associated to that, right? How people are creating relationship with the visuals which has been projected earlier, and once I experience the brand and how I see the visuals or the elements associated to the particular brand related to the composition which you have tried to illustrate. Okay. So as I said, visual branding is the use of visual elements to create distinct and cohesive identity for the brand. In the previous example, you can totally reiterate, right, how it distinctly talking about the three stripes, and when I added the three stripes to a composition, somewhere or the other it triggers the essence of the brand, and the moment you see the logo, it completes the overall story, right? And and what it tries to project, to be fit, right, to be athletic in nature, and how the community is being projected in that way, right, to create such kind of personalization, the tone of that particular brand, right? And it is a crucial component of overall branding, and it involves in designing and curating the look and feel that communicates the brand values, personality and purpose to its audience. Again, this is important, very, very important, how the three elements, right, the three stripes of the particular composition, without the brand name, somewhere or the other it's trying to communicate with you with some kind of meaning, okay, to be playful, to have some goal, right, to have a healthy way of living, right, to be athletic in nature. And this is where the personality, the valued tone of the particular brand connects and communicate. Okay. So as you see, the three bars, which is also known as the performance logo, it was launched in 1991. This version symbolizes the performance, innovation and forward moving, focusing on the athletic and functional products. So when you see this particular logo, it's always associated to athletic and something which is associated to functional products. So it may be shoes, it may be shirt, right, which are used for running, right, which were used for jogging, associated to that. And this is where the brand also have multiple segments, if you see. So this is the one of the segments where they primarily promote it as a performance logo, and the dress, the items associated to it is primarily used in terms of like you from the athletic perspective. Okay. And this is a trefoil logo, and it was introduced in 1972. The trefoil represent the Adidas original, and primarily it emphasizes the heritage and the lifestyle product. So this is more towards, not towards the athletic representation, but it's primarily towards the lifestyle, and it's bit towards trendy approach, like what are the trends they are trying to cater, and how it's associated to that. And it also emphasizes the heritage, like traditionally what kind of products they have been selling, and sometimes they also come up with a contemporary representation of the heritage products. Again, this is the overall the logo type. As I said, these are some of the visual elements which is associated to this brand. So logo type, the word Adidas in the lowercase sans serif letter reflect approachability and modernity. So modernity, why? Because the elements are the overall anatomy of the typeface is quite modern, right? And it's sans serif, and primarily it has a bold depiction. Strong lines can be observed, right? Which is geometric. The lines are quite geometric. Even the dot of that eye is quite geometric, which is a square, right? So this is the element which is associated to the brand, the three stripes, and you can sense it everywhere when you see the product. So this is again an image of a store, right? The retail outlet, and see how the three stripes has been projected in the overall brand represents. Even towards the doors, you can see the three stripes has been replicated. So this becomes part of the essence of the brand. So directly you are not showing the brand, right? But the moment you see a three stripes, even though in the absence of the brand name, if you have exposed to this particular brand, you will always associate it with the existing name Adidas, right? Even though if you can't see the name associated to that. So, and there comes the idea of visual storytelling, how visual storytelling plays an important role in terms of depicting the brand essence, the ethos of the brand, right? The voice and the tone of the brand, which we have talked in the previous branding segments too. And you can see this is the tagline which they believe to project, right? Impossible is nothing. So, and this slogan reflects the brand's philosophy of pushing boundaries, overcoming challenges, and empowering individuals to achieve their potential. And sometimes brand purposely choose such kind of things to motivate you to believe, to make you believe, or make you happy, feel good about that particular perception. And this is where it's a good example. Impossible is nothing, right? And this is where the idea of empowering, right, to achieve their potential has been talked about. And it has become a synonymous with the Adidas commitment in innovation, performance, inspiration in both sports and lifestyle products. And this is where again the word, the poster design also talks about. So this is again part of the idea of visual branding. So one of the segment is how do you market, how do you create such kind of awareness of that product, right? And here you can see with the lifestyle segment, right, how impossible is kept open, right? Impossible is nothing is the brand's tagline, and how the nothingness is observed in a very simplistic way, right? There is empty space, and this is where again the overwhelming complexity, right, of Adidas minimalistic design stands out. And how you can see it draws from the iconic slogan, right? Impossible is nothing, and this design reimagines the message with a bold artistic twist. And you can see at its core the design features like two words, right, which is impossible is dash, which is quite empty, and the idea of empty space, right, which leaves a blank canvas, encourages the viewers to explore their own interpretation. And this subtle powerful approach of transforms the familiar slogan in a thought-provoking statement about limitless possibilities. So which also reinforces Adidas' commitment in inspiring creativity and self-discovery. Okay. So next is the another segment where Adidas was primarily introducing women's retro jersey to honor and celebrate the world that the long history of struggle of women's football. Okay, and primarily Adidas traveled back to 1895 to for 2024 to remember a unique and special design, which you can see it here, right? And this is where the idea of newness of approach of addressing the jersey has been seen. The jersey was designed for the first ever women's football team, the British Ladies Football Club. And you can see how the overall representation came and how they paid a homage to the early team, right, of women's football, and how this has been again replicated in the modern age to give a retro vibe in terms of the jersey design. And you can see how the narration went back, right? So you can see 98% positive sentiment on the social media. So these are some of the data which they gathered while projecting this apparel to the audience. And there were like around 140,000 Adidas retro jerseys sold for British ladies FC, right? So this is again associated in terms of how the brand projection in terms of projecting the idea of retro and paying a homage to the early women's football team was taken into consideration, and it became quite successful in terms of campaigning the overall idea. So yeah, so this are some of the other segments. So again, this is a new way of campaign where Adidas in life, in love, in team campaign is striking. So you can see how the fusion of passion, artistry, and unity can be observed, right? Combining the vibrant essence of community with the timeless beauty of calligraphy. So you can see this is an Arabic calligraphy, and how it was beautifully kept as a part of the composition to highlight the overall essence of the brand. And this initiative created a heartfelt celebration that shared the journey of collective achievement. And this is the another segment of that particular campaign, and see how the brands are utilizing the elements of visuals, right, to project the brand essence, the feel of the brand based on a particular campaign or things associated to it. Yeah, so this again, in terms of visuals, since we are talking about visuals, so this is the website which is projected in India, so for the Indian audience, and you can see how the elements associated, the three stripes like of the Adidas has been kept, and how the overall feel of that representation is kept in it's in black and white primarily, right, and a sense of gray is taken into consideration. And again, the typeface, the use of the layout, right, everything is associated to visual representation. So when we say visual branding, this campaigning, the logo, right, the way how the overall projection of the extension, so website is an extension of the particular brand, right, and how this also has a uniform representation, the space. So if you go to any outlet store, how the three stripes has been replicated in everywhere, right? And this is where the uniformity in terms of brand representation is very, very important. A sudden change, abstract change of that idea of that particular brand, suddenly if you see there is a curvy three lines which are totally different in terms of thickness, right, each line is totally different in terms of thickness, that will never help you to recall the brand, especially Adidas. So if you're trying to recall the brand Adidas and the lines of that particular stripes are varied in different sizes, and these are not straight, primarily these are more curvy or curled up, then the essence of the particular brand may lose. So this is very, very important for designers to also understand when you are jumping into a project which has a traditional way of replicating the brand. You have to also understand how they have been replicating it, right, how they've been promoting it, and if you're trying to address it in the contemporary world, what are the key things you have to observe to maintain the uniformity of the past and also give a new retro representation or contemporary representation of the present scenario. So yeah, as you can see, these are some of the representation in terms of the idea of how the lifestyle products have been depicted. So now how the visuals are changing. So earlier was more of athletic representation, right, where you buy sports shoe, gears, everything associated to that. Here it's primarily associated to lifestyle, and you can see there's a different way of layout in terms of depicting the brand, right? How it has been more casual approach, and how it was showing the trendy products which are associated to that particular brand. And again, in terms of visual branding, again, how they are using the idea of sustainability, the concern towards the environment, right? And they have another website for that which speaks about those things. So how the information architecture has been depicted in different way, and the information has been channelized, right, in a better way in different segments. And this is where the idea of community, the culture, the environment is being talked about. For this, they have another website named as adidasgroup.com, and this is where they talk primarily about how they are concerned about the society, concerned about the environment, what kind of culture they want to project, right? Those things are being talked about in this segment. Apart from that, since they are primarily focused on the idea of sustainability and all right now, and these are the two designers. So one is a prototype engineering designer, another is apparel designer named Natalie, and other was Mervin. So they both have proudly highlight some of the way how the existing packaging, right, the boxes which they give can be transformed into some lifestyle product or some kind of packaging element. So here is a small case how they have taken into consideration of the products associated to that, right? And how they have made, so for that again they have some guidelines, right? So they have created a set of guidelines how a normal carry bag can be transformed into a packaging like gifting bag. Okay, and here they have given some of the tips how to address it, where to cut, right, what are the things you have to remove, what are the things you have to add, and based on that this becomes more of a utilization of the package, right, the carry bag to a packaging item, right? And similarly here, how the normal shoe box is converted to a purse, I would say, right, a small bag, right? And again, for that, how to achieve those kind of things, the guides, the steps are taken into consideration to promote sustainability. And this is where again the brand plays an important role, how the visual branding is again associated to depicting such kind of philosophy regarding, or the ethos associated to that particular brand. So now we are coming to India. In Indian case, this is another case study of SBI, which is also India's one of the largest and most trusted public sector bank, and it has played an important role in shaping India's financial landscape. Okay, so it was primarily established in 1955 from the Imperial Bank of India, and SBI has grown into a banking behemoth with a vast network of around 22,000 branches and 60,000 ATMs, serving millions of customers across the urban and rural area of India. And you can see how the transition has happened till date. So in 2017 there was rebranding happening. So branding is like the idea of how the existing product has been one to project. Rebranding is like to give a refreshed look, and if the company or the brand feels like they want to be part of the modern contemporary scenarios, right? Sometimes rebranding too happens just to give a refreshed look with refreshed perspective towards their mission, right, towards their vision, and what are the new things they want to address to the community or the upcoming generations which they feel like. So this is one thing happened with SBI. It was changed. The overall logo has been subtly changed to a different representation, and how it feels like it has a DNA of the existing brand. So again, rebranding is very much, I would say, sensitive compared to branding, because branding you are not bothered about the heritage, the past and all, but in rebranding definitely you have to consider the past, the existing way of representing what they want to project, how they have been projecting, and in rebranding those things plays an important role. So basically in rebranding, while you are doing that, always keep in mind whether you are being able to attain the same DNA overall the look may be fresh, like the look may not have connection with the existing like a logo, but the essence of the DNA should be perceived or to be attained through different visual forms or compositions you would like to see. And that's why if you see the Pepsi rebranding, right, so it has happened a lot, and it became a point of discussion for most of the people. Like, there was very subtle change, and there was huge amount of money associated to that in terms of rebranding it. But again, there was a carefully crafted thought behind it. It was not random, because again, when you're rebranding, they have prioritized the idea of keeping the DNA, the essence, such that people don't feel disconnected with the new face, the new representation. And if the disconnect happens, it may impact the overall brand trust associated with that particular the customers and the brand. And this is where again the SBI has thought carefully, and this was done by one of the studios in Mumbai known as Design Stack, took this task of refreshing the brand identity of the State Bank of India, which is also known as SBI, aiming to position it as a modern and progressive institution while preserving its iconic stature. Right, the idea of rebranding strategy focus on making the brand instantly new yet instantly recognizable. And this is where we have talked about how the brand essence plays an important role. And typically when you are rebranding it, this is very important for a designer to understand how the overall DNA is maintained, because when you are trying to rebrand, also you have to consider how the essence of the previous brand is kept or preserved, such that people don't disconnect with the new representation or the refreshed look which you have tried to attain. And this is where it's very important for designer to also appreciate and understand how the brand heritage has been, what is the past associated to the brand, and how they are able to maintain the essence of that particular thing. And here you can clearly see how the previous and the modern fresh look has the same DNA in terms of the anatomy, right? But yeah, there are subtle changes which we'll observe in the upcoming slides. So here you can see the previous logo here in the left, right, has a thinner representation and a smaller circle. And here you can see how the overall representation is little bit wider, and the stroke thickness here is comparatively more. And this is also happening because now the platform is changing, right? Typically any kind of logo, if you see, are also getting minimized, because we are mostly observing the details of our mobile phones, right? And the idea of print and publication is getting limited to different segments, especially if you are using any app, and if you and that contains the typeface are becoming smaller, because the overall screen is getting limited in terms of the space and all. And for that the idea of increasing such kind of things will help to preserve the essence of that particular brand. And this is primarily more functional in nature, considering the upcoming and emerging platform. Also, it retains the essence of the brand. You can see it clearly. And again, this is the typeface. Again, this information is taken by the design stack, and they have uploaded the case study, and through which we are also looking into, right? So what are the fonts associated? So visual branding, typeface plays a information role, because typeface becomes the character of that particular brand representation. So whenever you see or seek any kind of brand there, if the branding is done properly, you will also see a set of typeface associated to that particular brand. Okay, and that will always help you to recall and to understand that, okay, if I'm seeing this brand, this typeface seems to be familiar with that particular brand. And here the typeface itself become like a character, right? It has its own behavior, it has its own feeling, it has its own anatomy associated to that. And that's why while you do any kind of visual branding, this kind of elements plays an important role. The elements of color, right, the elements of the typeface, the brand mark, the logo, everything comes into play. Okay, so with this, again, the key elements for if you see how the idea of rebranding is taken into consideration, the integration of monogram as a watermark, right, and traditional SBI monogram was combined with the abbreviation of SBI, right, watermark, right, creating a concise and contemporary identity that retains the bank's core value. So the next point is customized typography. So if you see the use of customization, right, how the typeface has quite integrated in terms of the overall concept, right, of the brand, and a sturdy geometric sans serif typeface was used to customize the overall word mark and convey a sense of weight and institutional presence. A distinct gap was introduced between the letter B, right? So you can see there's a gap here, right, clearly. So I had to make the overall essence more dominant in terms of visual. It emphasizes the essence of the brand, right? And it makes sense if you are trying to I would say rebrand the whole thing, such that it gives a attention to that particular brand, since there is a variation from the traditional way how it has been depicted. Another thing is like comprehensive brand manual. So a detailed brand manual is always important for if you are doing any kind of branding and rebranding to your works. Okay, so you can see how the design philosophy of simplify, modernize, optimize guided the rebrand process, ensuring the SBI identity remains overall, right, like it ensures that it feels like more user friendly and consistency. Also it feels more modern compared to the other previous representation. So you can see how the in the name of visual branding, these are the things like elements, right, which are associated. So one is color. How do you see colors associated to that? Again, there's another visual element which is this, right? It feels like an arrow again, you can see here, and this element has been replicated in most of the promotional and marketing campaign, especially in print and publication, and you can sense it here, right? So even the idea of visual branding comes in terms of what are the things the brand is going to utilize to project themselves. So primarily, especially in banks, the idea of the envelope, the letterhead are primary part of their communication, right? And again, the idea of the cards, right? So you can see how the visiting cards are taken into consideration to depict the essence of the brand. And here you can see the element which I was talking about to be reflected. So this is in the envelope, right? How you create the brand correlation with some new elements associated to that. Again, if you see the check page which is associated to that, and you can see how the similar elements has been replicated to give a similar vibe of that particular brand essence. Same thing, if you see how the same color has been used as a part of depiction, the anatomy, how the composition is happening, the typeface which we have talked about, it becomes a source of a character of that particular brand, right? And with that, again, this elements has been reflected, right? So again, in terms of consistency, this is how you can look into and how it makes sense to the overall brand representation. Similarly, here again, I was talking about these elements. Again, this is a promotional and campaign which they have run. So this was talking about some of the features which as we have provided, right? And here again, the similar brand elements, the color choice has been replicated, right? The typeface which is associated to that has been taken into consideration. Similarly, this is another campaign which they have run, right, for home loans. Again, the similar elements has been addressed. So they are purposely using this element to create some kind of correlation with the brand. A similar thing which we have talked about in terms of Adidas, the three stripes was playing an important role in terms of repeating, although there is absence of the brand name, but the three stripes becomes a way of depicting the essence of the brand. So whenever you see the three stripes consistent lines, indirectly or directly will associate to that particular brand. And here it's again they are trying to convert that in that way, like whenever you see this, you can sense the essence of the brand, right? Even though the logo may be removed, and you can still feel that you are trying to address that brand by using the typeface, by using the colors associated to that. Yeah, so these are again how do you project to have a better audience. And you know, most of you know, he was an Indian skipper for cricket team of India, national cricket team of India. He is MS Dhoni, and how he became a brand ambassador for SBI to project and to promote and to have a larger audience base under his promotion, right? So this is where again the concept of the brand like in terms of marketing plays an important role. So if you take consideration of renowned celebrities, so you have a larger fan base, and somewhere the other fan will also incline towards the way how the celebrity is taking forward with the brand, right? Again, so in terms of the visual branding, again, apps like app design, the layout, the screen plays an important role, the iconography plays an important role. The idea of consistency using the similar typeface, similar set of colors has been taken into consideration, and with this you create the essence of the brand whenever I'm shifting from different product associated to that particular brand. Yeah, so these are again marketing way how they have added. So again, they have this is a YouTube page where you can clearly see we are pleased to onboard MS Dhoni as a brand ambassador. So they are proudly showcasing him and how he has been promoting the particular brand. And you can find this in the official channel of YouTube of SBI, right? And with this, the idea of the branding played an important role. The rebranding of SBS successfully positioned the bank as a forward-looking institution while preserving it in the core values of trust and inclusivity. And it reinforced SBI's commitment to the innovation, digital transformation, helping them to remain relevant in a competitive and rapidly changing financial environment. And by aligning the identity and the modern customer expectation, SBI has strengthened its role as a banker to everyday Indian. And with this, we will conclude the session, and I'm pretty sure you have known how visual elements are playing an important role in creating the brand essence, the impression of the brand, and how with time those elements will trigger you. So even though if you don't see the logo, somewhere the other, if you see the elements, the colors associated to the brand will help you to recall the brand, and the essence of trust and commitment will be projected in that way from the customer side. And with this, I am pretty sure you have learned what is actually visual branding and what are the elements associated to that. We'll go thoroughly in the upcoming session about the key elements associated to visual branding. So thank you for your time, and I hope you all have got some idea about visual branding and why it's important and how the brand projects using different platform, using different mediums, right? And in the next session we'll talk about the elements of visual branding. Till then, goodbye and have a nice day.